This is America Talks Live, Hour 2, where what matters most is that we listen to you. I'm J.D. Hayworth, inviting you to call us right now at 1-877-NEWSMAX. That's 1-877-639-7629. You and I just heard members of Congress assembled this morning on the east front of the Capitol singing God Bless America, just as those of us serving a decade and a half ago did on the evening of September 11th, 2001. This Sunday, 9/11/2016, of course, marks the 15th anniversary of the attacks, and House Speaker Paul Ryan says we must help a new generation understand what occurred and never forget the lessons learned.
Do they fully understand what happened that day? Will they ever? Can they? They can watch the old footage. They can see the clips of the towers falling. They can hear the great roar as a landmark comes crashing down, and with it, an era. Can they actually feel it?
And this was the scene at the New York Stock Exchange this morning. The floor stood silent to honor the memories of the victims who perished not far from Wall Street at the World Trade Center, also across the river from Washington, D.C. at the Pentagon, and in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Now, for more on all of this, we are pleased to be joined by Newsmax TV political analyst Dick Morris. Dick, of course, the author of the New York Times bestseller Armageddon, How Trump Can Beat Hillary. And Skyping in from New York, former INS agent Michael Cutler. Michael testified before the 9/11 Commission. I got to know him during my days in Congress, and we obviously have border security as one of our paramount concerns. Gentlemen, to you both, thanks for your time today. Dick, what transpired on 9/11 is indelibly etched in my mind. I was there in my office. I was supposed to be at the Pentagon. Donald Rumsfeld had invited me to breakfast, but the American Legion was in town and being attentive to my constituents. I'd just come back from a breakfast with the Arizona delegation from the American Legion when the attacks started. I'm sure you likewise remember where you were on 9/11/2001.
Yeah, I was actually flying back to Kennedy Airport. I had been working in Brazil with the client I was working with there, and the flights from Brazil landed about 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and I'd been flying all night and landed at 7. Got in a taxi, went to my apartment, which was at 62nd Street and Broadway, and promptly went to bed to sleep off the flight. And a few moments later, Eileen, my wife, called and said, turn on the TV and all of that. And then I looked out my window and could see the smoke pumping out of the World Trade Center towers. My wife had an office and I had an office at 43rd and 5th, and she was there. She left the office immediately. It was near Grand Central Station, and many people thought that might be the next target. And they walked home to my apartment, and then we went to the Red Cross that was about 4 blocks away to offer to give blood. And we were there with about 100 people standing outside, and they came out and said, there's no need for blood. Everybody's dead.
Michael, obviously, you have memories, and yours really from a law enforcement, national security perspective.
Yes, and in fact, one of my very first case that was assigned to me, 1976, an Israeli young man who came to the United States with an altered visa. Routine case, take a statement and we'll move him out of the country. Well, as I questioned him, I realized there was much more to this young man than met the eye. As it ultimately developed, he was a member of the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization. He was here to get money to be used in an attack on their oil refinery back in Haifa. I immediately notified my superiors. We worked with the Israelis and the FBI. We prevented the attack. And then I testified before Congress on May 20th, 1997, on the issues of visa fraud, immigration benefit fraud, because of 2 terrorist attacks carried out in the United States in 1993. A Pakistani shoots up the CIA, guy's name was Kansi. He had applied for asylum, kills 2 CIA officers, wounds 3 others, and then we had the first bombing at the Trade Center, February of '93. So here we have this hearing about the nexus between immigration and terrorism. The Clinton administration basically did nothing, hired no more.
And the tragedy is, as you chronicle what was prologue to those attacks on 9/11, we can pick it up afterwards. We started raising HE double hockey sticks about border security. The silence or the comparative inaction has been deafening. And Dick Morris, it leads to this question: are we safer today than we were 15 years ago?
Well, we're safer externally because our military has done a good job in Afghanistan of driving Al Qaeda out. If we precipitously withdraw everybody, they'll come right back in. And ISIS is certainly a major threat, but probably not as severe as Al Qaeda was. The problem is we're much less safe internally because we've let in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of immigrants, and among them are seeded terrorists. And we're on the verge of having the same problem that France or Belgium have, where the terrorists and jihadists within are too large a cancer to ever be able to cut out.
And to that point, Michael, you have been sounding the alarm. Your background in immigration, you're with the INS, now known as ICE, but it's as if our bureaucracy has been in a deep freeze, perhaps enforced with an injection of Freon, if I belabor that image, from the current administration. How concerned are you going into this weekend that we might actually see attacks on our shores this 9/11?
Well, very much concerned. And, you know, since 9/11, think of how many attacks were thwarted by law enforcement, how many attacks were carried out but unsuccessfully. Faisal Shahzad, the Times Square bomber, naturalized citizen. You know, the Immigration Service that I worked for, and now ICE and the other components of DHS, are not doing an effective job of screening people who get citizenship, political asylum. You saw the Boston Marathon bombing. Again, one of those 2 brothers, a naturalized citizen. That whole family got asylum and immediately went back to Russia from whence they came. But they got asylum claiming credible fear. The same thing in San Bernardino. Immigration, according to the 9/11 Commission, was the primary failure that enabled everything else that occurred. And you and I met just weeks after 9/11 when I testified before the House Immigration Reform Caucus on these very same issues.
And we are going to talk further about that a bit later in our program. We can never separate politics from what is past or what is prologue. And Dick Morris, Hillary Clinton is now maintaining rhetorically, as she is out on the stump, that ISIS actually wants Donald Trump to win the upcoming election. Let's listen to the Democrat nominee.
They hope that Allah delivers America to Trump. They have said that they hope that he is the president because it would give even more motivation to every jihadi.
Dick, just imagine if the roles were reversed and Donald Trump said that of Hillary Clinton. The hue and cry from the alphabet networks, the Washington Post, and the New York Times would be almost deafening.
You're right about that. But I want to go to something more immediate about Hillary, more important. She and Bill Clinton let bin Laden live. She's trumpeting her role in the Situation Room and deciding to kill him. But in 1998, we had our best shot at killing bin Laden. And we knew where he was. We got intelligence, and our intelligence operatives said, if ever we had credible information for a strike, this is it. And Bill was so paralyzed by the hue and cry that had come up a year earlier when he tried to kill bin Laden, and everybody said, you're wagging the dog, to distract from Monica Lewinsky's grand jury testimony, which was the same day. He did not order the strike. He ordered us to stand down. And he and Hillary deserve responsibility for that decision, because it was clear that we would have killed bin Laden and 9/11 would never have happened.
Your call's invited again at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. Michael Cutler, amidst all the political back and forth. Yep. And obviously Dick reminds us of history. Do you believe that the presidential candidates are taking the lessons of 9/11 seriously?
I think Donald Trump is. I don't think Hillary Clinton is. Look, Clinton wants to provide unknown millions of illegal aliens who trespassed on America, entered surreptitiously, perhaps committed visa fraud, entered under the visa waiver program, wants to give anyone who's here illegally lawful status. There would be no capacity to do any face-to-face interviews, let alone any field investigations. The 9/11 Commission warned very clearly that immigration fraud and visa fraud were the two key methods of entry and embedding for the terrorists. Hillary Clinton wants to embark on a program that would provide millions of aliens that very opportunity. And let's remember one thing. On 9/11, just 19 young men barely out of their teens inflicted more casualties on America than did the entire Japanese fleet at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941, to put that into context.
It does put it into some perspective. Michael, we're going to bring you back a little later. Dick, you're staying in the next segment, but 30 seconds, Dick, because I know you have a point you want to make right now.
I just want to make the point that that Hillary wants these Muslims to come into the United States and get citizenship because 90% of them vote Democrat. And that is why the Obama administration is pushing for the admission of refugees. Refugees come in as legal immigrants and are fully capable of becoming citizens as soon as they take the necessary tests. And the Democrats hope to build up the Muslim population from about 1% of the vote to at least exceed the Jewish population, which is 3%. And it's all part of their effort to alter the demographics of America so that they can take over politically.
That is something we will continue to talk about when we continue. And again, your phone calls at 1-877-NEWSMAX. It's hour 2 of America Talks Live.